Welcome back, folks, to this series of videos on MPLAB Harmony 3, and on this video we're going to cover the software prerequisites and the Harmony assets that are required for USB device functionality on this PIC32MZ EF Curiosity 2.0 board. And we're going to, first of all, we're going to take a copy of our existing project, and then we're going to add the Harmony components and update any dependencies. And then what we'll do is we'll see if we can get a USB device to enumerate, and we'll go on from there. So without further ado, let's see how we get on with taking a copy of the project. Well, first of all, let's have a little check to make sure that our project is still working. So I'm going to do a generate in the MCC, so that all looks good. And I'm going to do a project rebuild. That all looks good. And I'm now going to send this off to the device. And there we go, we can see it's reset. We still have the LEDs going, so everything's hunky-dory in that respect. So back to MPLAB IDE. So what I'd like to do is to take a copy of this project. What we don't want to do is to start messing around now, because we're going to do some changes which potentially are a little bit risky. I'll leave it at that, but yes, we'll just leave it at that. If we close the project first, and then we find our project. Now, you notice in the Windows, it's normally in your user subdirectory underneath user ID in a directory called MPLAB X projects, and it's called the same as what the project name was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a copy of this. So there we go, Control C and Control V, and then I'm going to rename the project to something more interesting that's more applicable. So we're going to call it USB on the end there. Now you'll notice that the actual underlying subdirectories still have the old directory name. Now I don't want you to change those because we'll be doing that in MPLAB X IDE. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up this copied project. Now just be careful you don't open up the old project. Here we go, the 3 USB. Open the project. You'll see underneath here we have that subdirectory stroke project name here is still in the old naming format, but we'll be renaming it here. So set as main, and then right click projects, and you'll see there's a rename function here. Now sometimes you may have just noticed there, when you hover over here, it doesn't actually select these, and the way to avoid that is to go out, go back in again, and then you can select rename again. So I'm going to call it USB. I'm going to get rid of these. You may find that if you're not in Windows, you can't have spaces in your file names, so just be aware of that. But we're in Windows, so I'm going to remove the underscores there. Also rename the project folder. There you go, rename it. If we look in the subdirectory again for here, you'll see it's been renamed. And you'll also see the project name here has been renamed. So everything, we're all good to go now. So let's see if we can do the same as we did before, which was we'll go into MCC, regenerate, then we'll do a full clean and rebuild, write it, make sure that everything is working. Okay, that's good. Generate, all good. And if you want to just make sure it is, clear this window here, generate, and then you don't have to go back through too many things. Okay, so that was clean. Let's do a clean and build. All good. Send it off to our target. Okay, That looks good. So everything still works. So the next bit to do is to add on our prerequisites, the Harmony assets. Now, to do this, we'll go into the project resources here, and you'll see here's Content Manager. So if we press on that, and there's two components that we need to add here for USB, which aren't already in our project. One of those is Core. So I'm going to, we'll go for the most recent one. You notice here it also brings in BSP with it. Just a quick note on that. I don't use BSP, but it's a prerequisite of Core. This is the board support packages that our Microchip provide for their boards, like the Curiosity board that we're using right now, but also for their other boards. Now, I don't generally use any of the BSP functionality, and the reason for that is that in most real-world cases, your production will not be on a board with a board support package. So I essentially do that bit manually, which is when we were setting up things like the pins and what have you. So you'll also notice that up here that we've got a bit of orangeness going on. So if we look here, we've got these are compatibility warnings. You'll notice that the Core requires CSP. And there's two ways of doing this. Either what we could do is we could use an earlier version of Core, or we could update our version of CSP to reflect Core. So CSP was already set up in our project anyway as part of our original setting up when we built the project. So we need to upgrade from 3.19.5 up to 3.21.0. Now, a quick note on that, if you want to find out what your versions are for your project, you can do this by opening up this file here, and you'll see this has got the CSP version. As time goes on, you'll see there's more and more things going here. You'll also see things like the version of compiler that we used, all the versions. So this is quite handy to have. So I'm going to go through that again. Is that if you go into your folder for your project, you'll see there's an MCC manifest generated success.yaml, and this is where all your versions are. So this is kind of quite handy to know, so that in future, if you're trying to deal with any issues, particularly around which compiler you used, which dependencies and which versions of the various components are in there, they're all in there. So we need to see if we can fix this. As I say, you can either drop our Core version down to a lower version, or we can, let's get our CSP up to the latest version. Now there is a risk in that, and the risk is that if the gap in versions of say your CSP or any other package is too wide, they're not backwardly compatible. But that's one of the reasons for us taking a copy earlier on, so that we can revert back if necessary. So let's get our CSP up to 3.21. You see that the BSP prerequisites are similar, even though we're not using BSP. We have to really make sure that all of these compatibility warnings are removed. So let's see if we can upgrade our CSP. So look for CSP. So here's our CSP. Currently got 3.19.5. So let's go for 3.21, the latest one. You see that we're now down to 1 in compatibility warning. Now this is a new one. This is saying our CSP is now dependent on another service called Harmony Services. So we've got this dependency nightmare going on here. So let's see what we can do with Harmony Service. Let's see if we can get up to 1.5. So we'll do a search in here for Harmony Services. There it is, 1.5. Excellent. So we've got no compatibility warnings anymore. Now what's left is we need to add the USB component. So here we go. Might as well go for the latest one, 3.15. Still no compatibility warnings, and let's do an apply. So this might take a minute or so. All good. Okay, so let's close Content Manager. Let's get into our project. Let's open up MCC, and now when we updated our underlying components, let's see what's happened to our MCC. And you notice here, these red things here need to be addressed. They must be addressed. So it's saying we want to upgrade 3.19.5, which, as you'll remember, was the version of our package that we'd in our project, and the new local package repository is at 3.21. So we need to upgrade this. Now this is where there's a risk involved that I mentioned earlier on. If you continue with this, there's no going back unless you have a backup beforehand. So just be aware of that. So I'll do continue. Now, when there's a problem, you'll end up with it saying that it can't upgrade the package. And with that in mind, what you end up having to do is to either go back to your backup and then downgrade the various additional packages like core and USB to one that's compatible with your CSP. So that's one way of doing it, or just attempting to get around it. But this is the we seem to have been lucky so far, because you'll end up with a blank screen if things go wrong just here. So we need to make sure that we can generate still without any errors. I didn't clear that out again, did I? Should do that. Do a generate. Are we clean? We are clean. That's a stroke of luck. And then we're going to the project. Let's see if we can rebuild it. Now, this is a common fault that I see after doing these updates to the Harmony assets, is we get this error here, which says no rule to make. Now, there's a number of ways that you can fiddle around with various files to get around this. It's a little bugette in the ecosystem, but the easy way is, usually this works, but it's just to quit MPLAB X IDE, let it close down, open it up again. Clean and build, and miraculously it builds. So then let's just make sure that we still have a working build. There we go, and you'll see that we still have the flashing LEDs there. So everything's still working. So that's our prerequisites set up for USB. And in the next video, we'll actually do the bit where we add the UART onto the USB. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you very soon.